Hi guys. So one of the books that I read before Christmas was Tricks by Ellen Hopkins. Ellen Hopkins was a writer that I really, really liked for a long time, and I loved that she took poetry and made it into a story. When the book Tricks is about love and sex and how they relate to each other and decisions and how once you add sex into your life, it makes things a lot more complicated, which I would say is a very true view of sex. However, when I read this book, I didn't feel it. I think that teaching teens about sex is a really big deal, and teaching them what's love and what's just sex is also a really big deal, because they're really very, very, very connected. And I didn't feel like this did it right. It took a very anti-sex view, and not just in the, oh, sex is going to get you pregnant and you're going to ruin your life kind of way. Just, it talked about prostitution a lot, which was, of course, the idea of the book. However, it was not marketed that way. I did not think I was going into a book about prostitution. I thought I was going into a book about love and sex, and how love is more potent and stronger than sex is, and how you can't be intimate with someone, like truly be intimate with someone, unless you love them, because otherwise you're just giving them a piece of your soul that they're just going to throw away, because they don't have the respect for you, because you don't have the respect for you. Now, there's tons of books that have done this right. If you've ever read Story of a Girl by Sarah Zarr, or Looking for Alaska by John Green, two books that really talk about love and sex and what it means to have self-worth and what it means to create self-worth. And, self-worth is something that's hard to create, and it's hard to make exist, because it's something that you have to do in yourself, and being around people can be really good for your self-worth, but can also be really detrimental to it, and it can be something that isn't supposed to be detrimental and ends up detrimental. And especially in relationships, there's a very fine line walked between love and self-worth, because you want to give them everything, but you also can't. And this was something that was kind of touched on in one of the stories in Tricks, but is really, really touched on in other books that I've read, especially Looking for Alaska, where they talk about physical affection versus emotional affection. And I overall, I felt like this book I didn't particularly enjoy it, and then its main argument wasn't strong enough for me. I also had a couple of issues with the characters. I felt like she put the characters in a rock and a hard place. However, she didn't make their thoughts particularly deep or intense. She just said, well, I can either do this or I can do that, so I'm going to do that. And I understand that we make the wrong choices sometimes, but she wasn't writing those wrong choices in a way that made it seem like they would actually choose those. And as I consider myself to be a rather normal, average young adult, and the way that she came to those conclusions, and some of those conclusions I just didn't agree with. I felt like it wasn't right. My overall rating would probably be about a 2 out of 5, because the poetry was good. I think I'm probably just over that age group that she's aiming for, and I felt that her lesson, although about prostitution, was right, about just love in general and love versus sex was not. It just wasn't. So